Why do we persist in a world devoid of meaning? What drives us to rise each day, knowing that our efforts are destined to be erased by the passage of time, much like footprints in shifting sand? These questions weigh heavily on the human spirit, their answers elusive, their implications disquieting. In confronting the absurd, the clash between our unyielding quest for significance and the universe's impenetrable silence, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a chasm. Yet, it is here, on the brink of despair, that we also find the invitation to live more fully, more fiercely, in defiance of the void. The absurd is born from the tension between our relentless desire for coherence and the chaotic indifference of existence. We crave meaning, purpose, and an overarching narrative to bind our lives together, but the universe offers none. This is not an argument to be won or a paradox to be solved. It is the human condition, raw and unyielding. One can flee from this condition into comforting illusions, religion, ideology, or systems of belief that promise an order beyond our comprehension, or one can face it head-on with the courage to accept its truth. To embrace the absurd is not to surrender to nihilism, but to reject the false solace of fabricated meaning. It is to live in rebellion against the meaningless nature of life while refusing to deny it. This rebellion is not a cry of despair, but a declaration of defiance. I will live, despite the void. I will create, despite the chaos. I will persist, despite the futility. The myth of Sisyphus illustrates this rebellion with a stark simplicity. Condemned to roll a massive boulder up a hill, only to see it tumble back to the base each time he nears the summit, Sisyphus embodies the essence of the absurd. His task is endless, his labor fruitless, and yet it is precisely in his struggle that we glimpse the possibility of triumph. Imagine Sisyphus at the foot of the hill, watching the boulder roll downward once again. He knows that his efforts are doomed to repetition, that no final victory awaits him. Yet, he bends to the task. He grasps the stone and begins anew, his muscles straining, his mind fully engaged in the act. The gods who intended his labor to be a punishment are powerless to dictate his inner response. In his rebellion, Sisyphus reclaims his autonomy. He transforms his punishment into an affirmation of his existence. Sisyphus is not a tragic figure because he is aware of his plight. His awareness is his freedom. It is the source of his strength and his humanity. By confronting the absurd and choosing to persist, Sisyphus becomes a symbol of the human spirit's resilience. He does not deny the absurd, but embraces it, finding joy not in the attainment of a goal, but in the act of striving itself. This is the path of the absurd hero: to live without illusions, to create without guarantees, to love without the promise of permanence. The absurd hero does not seek to escape the condition of life, but to engage with it fully. Each moment, each action, becomes meaningful precisely because it is transient. The absence of ultimate purpose sharpens the immediacy of experience, making every fleeting joy, every profound sorrow, every connection with another human being infinitely precious. Yet, this path is not easy. It requires a continual confrontation with the void, a steadfast refusal to look away. It demands the courage to accept life's chaos and contradictions without succumbing to despair. To live with the absurd is to inhabit a state of tension, to balance the desire for meaning with the knowledge that none exists. It is a state of perpetual rebellion, an ongoing act of creation in the face of destruction. The absurd life is a life of freedom. Freed from the constraints of imposed meanings, we are at liberty to define our own values and to shape our own narratives. This freedom is not boundless. It is tempered by the realities of our mortality and the limits of our condition, but it is profound. It is the freedom to choose our response to the absurd, to decide how we will live in a world that offers no certainties. In this freedom lies responsibility. To live authentically is to recognize the shared humanity of others, to see in their struggles a reflection of our own. The absurd hero does not retreat into isolation, but engages with the world, forging connections and finding solidarity in the collective rebellion against meaninglessness. The absurd is not an invitation to selfishness, but a call to empathy, creativity, and compassion. The creative act becomes a cornerstone of the absurd life. Through art, literature, music, and other forms of expression, we leave our mark upon the world, affirming our existence in the face of its impermanence. These acts of creation are not attempts to impose order on chaos, but celebrations of life's complexity and richness. They are acts of defiance, statements of individuality, and declarations of hope in a world without guarantees. To live as Sisyphus is to embrace the struggle, to find meaning in the act of living rather than in its results. It is to affirm life in all its contradictions and to celebrate its fleeting beauty. The absurd demands our rebellion, but it also offers us the chance to live with unparalleled intensity and authenticity. It strips away the illusions that bind us, leaving us face to face with the raw truth of existence. Let us then imagine Sisyphus happy, not because his task is easy or his burden light, but because he chooses to embrace it. Let us see in his struggle not futility but triumph, not despair but joy. Let us, like Sisyphus, defy the absurd and live with courage, creativity, and compassion. In doing so, we transform the void into a source of strength and our lives into works of art. This rebellion against the absurd is not a fleeting act, but a lifelong commitment. Each day presents a new opportunity to reaffirm our defiance, to engage with life on our terms, and to find fulfillment in the journey rather than the destination. To persist in this rebellion is to live with purpose, not in spite of the absurd, but because of it. The absurd does not diminish the value of life, it magnifies it. By confronting the void, we imbue each moment with significance. Sisyphus's endless struggle mirrors our own lives in its repetitive, cyclical nature. We wake, labor, rest, and begin again, day after day, year after year. Yet, within this repetition lies the potential for meaning. The daily grind, far from being a curse, can be an act of creation. It is in the effort, the striving, and the refusal to succumb to despair that we find our humanity. Each push of the boulder becomes a testament to our resilience, a declaration that we are alive and unbroken. To live with the absurd is to cultivate an appreciation for the transient and the ephemeral. It is to see beauty in a sunset, not because it points to a divine order, but because it exists, fleeting and unrepeatable. It is to cherish a moment of connection with another person, knowing that it cannot last forever, but is no less profound for its impermanence. The absurd reminds us that life's greatest treasures are not eternal truths, but transient experiences. This perspective does not require us to deny our longing for meaning. On the contrary, it acknowledges that longing is an essential part of our humanity. The absurd is born from the tension between our desire for purpose and the universe's indifference. To embrace the absurd is to accept that tension and to live fully within it. It is to honor our longing without succumbing to despair over its unfulfillment. The absurd life is not an easy life, but it is a rich and rewarding one. It challenges us to confront the void with courage and to live with authenticity. It asks us to reject the false comforts of ideology and to embrace the uncertainty of existence. It invites us to see our lives not as problems to be solved, but as opportunities to be seized. In this way, the absurd becomes a source of empowerment. By accepting life's lack of inherent meaning, we free ourselves from the need to seek validation from external sources. We become the authors of our own stories, the creators of our own values. This freedom is not without cost. It demands that we take full responsibility for our choices and actions. Yet, it is a freedom worth embracing, for it allows us to live with integrity and purpose. Imagine again the figure of Sisyphus standing at the foot of the hill, his boulder waiting to be pushed. He knows that his efforts will not culminate in triumph, that his labor is unending. Yet, he does not falter. He bends to the task, his face set with determination. In that moment, he is not a victim of the gods, but a hero of his own making. He is free because he chooses to persist. This is the challenge that the absurd poses to each of us: to find freedom in the act of rebellion, to create meaning where none exists, and to live with passion and intensity in the face of life's impermanence. It is not an easy path, but it is a path worth walking. It is a way of living that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the mundane into the profound. In the end, the absurd reminds us that life is a gift, not because it is guaranteed or eternal, but because it is fleeting and fragile. Each moment is an opportunity to affirm our existence, to connect with others, and to celebrate the wonder of being alive. It is not the promise of meaning that gives life its value, but the act of living itself. So let us, like Sisyphus, embrace the struggle. Let us find joy, not in the hope of a final victory, but in the act of striving. Let us live with courage, creativity, and compassion, transforming the absurd into a source of strength and inspiration. And as you ponder these reflections, as you consider the challenge of living with the absurd, I invite you to take one small step in rebellion against the void. Subscribe to this channel, not for the promise of answers, but for the journey of exploration. Together, we can push the boulder, not to reach the summit, but to find meaning in the climb.